We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
Good to be here or whatever. Well, good to be here. So let me tell you how I got here. Jacqueline sent out an email that she needed somebody to do the service on the July the 23rd or the 30th. And my reply was, I could do either except for fear. And all she did was handed me July 30th. So here I am, and good morning to you all. So our statement of purpose, and the reason why I love Awakening Together so much, is that we are an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols. We seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. And today, I think the core value that best fits the teaching today is we accept one true self, which is one presence or being, non-dual, without beginning or end, and absolutely changeless. We live this value by practicing letting go of the belief in the individual self as who we are. Okay, today the title of my teaching today is Understand, Believe, and Know. So let's just take a minute for us to like just be open to spirit, for me to like hear, if it's even possible, to hear from my stillness today, and to let us all hear what divine essence has to teach us. So the reading today will be from NTI, Acts chapter 27, and I've asked Elaine Wilson to read. Elaine, you're on.
St. Louis, in the country, so my internet's spotty, so I apologize for that. Glad to be here with you all. The reading is from NTI Acts chapter 27. Following this path with me will seem to lead you to many places and many stops along the way. Each place and each stop serves a purpose. It's to increase your willingness to follow me. If you were to exit the script that is the world and join with me as a true teacher of the Son of God, you must be willing to follow me in all things. You must be willing to listen to only me. And so you will be led to circumstances and lessons that will be used to increase your faith and trust and reliability on me. Each circumstance is an opportunity to learn. If you will only give your ear to me, no opportunity is lost, as I am always willing to love you and teach you. It is only this that you must remember, and then you can always decide. In each circumstance and every situation along the way to me, I am there with you, offering help and guidance. Never am I not there. Never can you make a mistake that will drive me away. But it is also true that you can only hear my word and accept my help if you're willing to see that the answer to all things is me. If you choose to limit the circumstances in which I may help, my help is limited. If you choose to solve your own problems, my answer remains unheard. Always, I am with you, able to help. Always, without exception, I am there. But you must be willing to know me and accept me in order to receive me as yours. When you are ready to give up your trust in yourself, you're ready to accept your trust in me. When you have seen that your answers do not lead to peace, you will be ready to accept peace through me. Trust does not come from suspense and anxiety. You must be willing to give those to me. Suspense and anxiety say you cannot trust. There is no peace to be found in them. When you're tempted to be afraid or tempted to worry, you must remember me. Remember that fear, suspense, anxiety, and worry are the expressions of the belief that you are alone and without me. Then be willing to see that deep within your heart, at the very depth of your soul, you know you're not alone. You know that the fear of being alone, abandoned, and helpless is an illusion that cannot be true. It is from this knowledge, this inner awareness that will not go away, that you will find the willingness to put fear and anxiety aside. Get quiet with me. Go to your stillness. Settle within that place that knows. It is here that you will find your nourishment to carry you forward with me. In the stillness, you find trust. In the stillness, you know me. It is also useful to remember when you cannot seem to be still, that the drama that seems to occupy is only a script in the mind. By watching it unfold and trusting in the power behind it, you will find the peace in the chaos. You will know the joy, and in this way, you can be helpful to those who do not seem to know. Through inner calmness on the seas of a storm, you provide a means of listening to me. By trusting and remaining open to the power beyond the script, you help the script and the actors to play along with me.
Thank you, Elaine. So understand, believe, and know. So I ran into this on a recent 5-day silent retreat that was led by Paul Catino. I ran into him at my work. I teach at a Jesuit university, so he was a Jesuit at the time. He's from India, so he has this Eastern belief that he has brought. He told a story that really rang to me, and you've probably, I think many of you have heard it, but I'm going to tell that story because it's sort of sucked me into and helped me look at my journey and my journey with regards to to understand, believe, and know. So the story goes like this. A merchant in Persia received a gift from his friend. It was a green parrot. It was a talking parrot, and it was from India. And he said, just feed it chilies and you will hear beautiful songs. So one day the merchant announced that he was going to go away on a trip to India and asked his family, his wife and his daughter, what they wanted. And they told him, they gave him a list of things. And then he turned to the parrot and he said, what about you, my friend? What do you want? And the parrot sighed and said, Master, if you see green parrots in India, will you please inform them that I am alive and well? Tell them that I live in a big house in Persia in a cage. And by the way, this parrot was treated so well. It was in a golden cage. Okay. So she just wanted her green parrot friends to know she was doing very well in her golden cage. So the merchant did just that, and he, after he finished his work and did his shopping for his family, right, he visited a garden. He came across a group of parrots and he walked up to them. Dear parrots, I bring a message to you from one of your sisters. She was trapped here in India, but she now lives with me. One of the parrots flew up and landed on the merchant's shoulder. "Is that so?" he said. "We hope she is safe." And the merchant says, "Oh, yes, she lives in a beautiful golden cage. I feed her tasty food. She wanted you to know that she is alive and well," said the merchant. Hearing this, the parrot sitting on the merchant's shoulder shivered and fell to the ground. The merchant was alarmed and tried to wake the parrot, but it lay still. "What have I done?" the merchant cried. All I wanted to do was pass on a message. I didn't know this parrot would die." So the merchant slowly got up and left for home. And of course, he's greeted by his family and he gave him the gifts. But then he turned to the parrot and the parrot asked, "Did you pass on the message to my friends? What did they say?" And the merchant said, "I delivered the message that you asked me to, but after listening to it, one of your friends shivered and fell to the ground. I'm afraid your friend died. I am so sorry," the merchant said sadly. The parrot went still, and then she too shivered and fell. And the merchant cried out, Oh my God, what is happening?" He opened the cage door, gently lifted the parrot out. He felt sorry for his beloved bird. He took the bird out to the garden to bury it. After digging the hole, he turned and lifted the bird. Just then, the parrot sat up and flew up to the nearby wall. As the merchant turned to lift the bird, it sat up and flew away. The merchant was pleasantly surprised and was really shocked and happy. "Friend parrot, I am so happy you are alive. But what did why did you fall down?" The parrot said, "The parrot who fell down wasn't actually dead. She was sending me a message," said the parrot with a smile. "The open sky is any day better than the golden cage." She also showed the way to escape the cage. "I never realized that you were sad in the cage," the merchant said. "Fly away, my friend. Fill the world with your beautiful song." And the parrot flew away. And that even touches me now. The open sky is any day better than a golden cage. I thought I was in the golden cage, right? But back when I met Paul Catino, who led this retreat I was on, he encouraged me essentially to follow my heart, what I was, to follow my heart. And in a way, he just opened a little that golden cage, the freedom to really search beyond religion, to search, follow my spiritual path. And so I started questioning everything I believed. And during this retreat, now I got to tell you the message for this teaching today kind of spilled out over a couple of days on that retreat. So I'll refer to some of the things that Paul referred to or wrote in his book. The name of the retreat I was on was Awaken to the Divine, which is Paul's latest book. But again, one of the messages that struck me and that does reflect my path is his understand, believe, know. Paul wrote in his book, many of the inspirational quotes I've chosen for reflection are easy to understand. We can grow to believe some of these quotes, but there are very few that we know. The Eastern, remember he was from India, The Eastern understanding of knowing or knowledge is that which touches the heart and transforms life. The biblical definition of knowledge goes even deeper. It is the intimacy at the core of our being. So it reflects, this whole thing reflects me. I mean, once my golden cage door was ajar a little bit, then I started reading and studying the Course of Miracles. And, that was a whole new understanding for me. It just like opened my mind. And over time, and I did that for several years. Over time, I heard criticisms that people many times just study the Course of Miracles, but never really get deeper. And yet there was something, I can see it now, but there was something that I knew within that I still needed to study. I didn't have any other understanding outside of the walls of my golden cage. And so just having this new thinking, another thought, I had to understand. So I did that for several years. And I believed my belief was that I had to study this new way of thinking just to find a different path beyond that golden cage. I read other books as well. Ultimately, of course, here I am. I found Awakening Together, Regina, Regina Dawn Akers, and the MPP program, which, again, opened me up to all of these different religions, or at least the spiritual foundations of that, which was totally lovely. And through that process too, we read and, and study to understand, but then what do we believe? What do I believe? And even in this process of putting this message together, I kind of went through, what do I really believe? And I believe in oneness. I believe that we can all wake up to that oneness, divine essence. I believe in that divine essence, and that we are that our divine essence is part of the divine image and likeness. And I believe that we all have inner guidance, that wisdom within. And, really, I believe the core values of Awakening Together, this sort of reflects these. And I also believe that everybody's path is perfect. Everybody's path, no matter how much my ego is judging that. So, I studied to understand. I, contemplated and repeated and to believe. And then now I'm in this place of, I'm in the search for knowing. And what is knowing? Really, I kind of, did a search for that, back to the understanding and studying, right? What is knowing? So Paul Catino says, he wrote, there's a 3-stage integration, understand, believe, and know, and that is reflected in the parable of the sower and the seed. So I don't know if you all remember that parable, but I actually looked it up in the New International Version Bible, Luke 8:5-15. So here's that parable. A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he scattered the seed, some fell on the path and it was trampled and the birds ate it, right? Some fell on the rocky road, and when it came up, The plants withered because they had no moisture. Other seed fell on the thorns. It was choked out, and then grew up, and then choked out, which the thorns actually choked out the plants. Still others fell on the good soil. It came up and yielded a crop 100 times more than was sown. So Paul says, the seeds that fell on the wayside are like those who understand they are made in the image and likeness of God or the divine, but do not want to go deeper. Some may move on to the next stage and believe this truth, but those are like seeds that fall on rocky ground, the rational type, like me, right? Who do not allow the truth to take root, or the seeds that fall among the thorns, the emotional type, who choke the seeds and stunt their growth. That's believe, yet they're choked out, right? And then there are those that are open and prepared to receive the truth. When this truth begins to take root and bear fruit, then they truly know the truth. And the truth will make them free. This also reminds me of NTI Hebrews 8, where the Holy Spirit wrote, Jesus does not speak in words when he speaks clearest to the mind, that is your heart. Jesus speaks as a knowing. And because it is a knowing that you realize in your knowingness that this knowing is a knowing that is true. Follow it to your truth. In its knowingness, the voice without words leads you there. The voice without words leads you there. So how do we learn? Okay, I still got some rational stuff going on, right? Just tell me how to learn how to know, right? So how do we learn to know? And I started investigating that in Paul's book, Awaken to the Divine. He talked about Lectio Divina. I think I'm saying that right. And I think, who is it? Susan Telford. I meant to look it up. She has a program in the sanctuary by this name. It has, Lectio, which is a reading. Meditatio, I think was, if I'm saying these right, is a reflection. Oratio is the response. And then contemplatio is the fourth aspect of Lectio Divina. It's repose. And that contemplatio is a resting, contemplative state. We allow the divine presence to take deeper root at the core of our being. That is a way of knowing. So that resting, contemplative state. Another way that Paul Catino talked about was St. Ignatius gave us a process of meditation, contemplation, and application of the senses. And again, that application of the senses is the prayer, where neither the head nor the heart gets in the way of pure consciousness. It is a prayer of spiritual repose. And he goes on to describe spiritual repose as a state of being when pure consciousness becomes a way of life. In this way of life, we now learn to live as the I know here. The I being the image and the likeness of God, the divine breath, divine essence, however we want to refer to it. This in the presence of the now, which is really every moment from the beginning of time to the end of time. And this now is a part of eternal time, so it's nowness. And this place here where is really, present and in part of everywhere, right? So it's the part of the whole creation. So in this I now here state, we experience spiritual repose. Spiritual repose gives us the energy and the inspiration to live every moment as if it were our first, our last, and the only moment. Doesn't that really, it really speaks to me to be able to live in this moment as if it's our first, our last, and the only moment. So this is contemplative in action, he says. And we open ourselves to that divine presence, divine essence, whatever we want to call it, at every moment in the here now. We are fully involved in life with our hearts rooted and grounded in divine essence. He also says, so his own way of finding knowing is he has he calls it a warm-up exercise. He says, first, like when you're reading or studying, to understand, right? Notice the sentence or the word that really draws your attention, because this is listening. When it draws your attention, you're listening. Read the rest of the chapter, but meditating on the word and the sentences, or do all you can to understand that word or sentence that pulled you, that drew your attention. And then he says, keep repeating it until it sinks into the core of your being or your unconscious and becomes the integral part of your being. That's the knowing. He says, keep repeating it until it sinks into the core of your being or your unconscious and becomes an integral part of your being. I also contemplated this, and this spoke to me. I asked, contemplating knowingness, I asked divine essence, what is knowingness? And what I heard was, to know is to experience beingness. To know reflects the experience of essence. And, as far as repeating anything to take it into my unconscious, the core of my being, what comes to me is be still and know that I am God. I am divine breath in the divine image and likeness of the divine presence. Paul says, the challenge of our present life is to realize our identity in the divine essence. I would rephrase that to say the challenge of our present life is to know, is to find and know our identity in the divine essence. So be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. To me, that is settle down, take a breath, let go of turmoil, stress, and chaos, Let go of fear and guilt, worry and desire. Quiet your mind. Let your thoughts die out. Quiet your thinking and empty your mind. Be still and know. We study to understand. We take on belief. But do we really know? To know is to take it into our core being, to experience it in the depth of our being, to experience it as a way of our being, our essence, to experience our divine essence is to feel the divine presence as we move through life. To experience our divine essence, it's not just to feel, but also to experience knowingness of the divine presence as we move through life. Be still and know that I am God, that I am divine presence, that I am divine essence, that I am. So, to circle around to the reading in TI Acts chapter 27 that Elaine read for us. Verse 33 to 38 said, when you are tempted to be afraid and tempted to worry, you must remember me. Remember that fear, suspense, anxiety, and worry are the expressions of the belief that you are alone and without me. Then be willing to see that deep within your heart, at the very depths of your soul, you know you are not alone. You know that the fear of being alone, abandoned and helpless is an illusion that cannot be true. It is from this knowledge, this inner awareness that will not go away, that you will find the willingness to put fear and anxiety aside. Get quiet with me. Go to your stillness. Settle within that place that knows. It is here that you will find your nourishment to carry you forward with me. In the stillness, you find trust. In the stillness, you know me. And Holy Spirit went on in the most obvious, probably the thing that most of us are thinking right now. It is also useful to remember when you cannot seem to be still, that the drama that seems to occur is only a script in your mind. By watching it unfold and trusting in the power behind it, you will find the peace in the chaos. You will know joy. And in this way, you can be helpful to those who do not seem to know. Through inner calmness on the seas of a storm, you provide a means of listening to me. I'm reminded of my sister-in-law who, when she went through the death of her husband, fairly young, and she's had a very strong spiritual life. You could tell in her sorrow that she had a knowingness beyond what she was experiencing. And so what strikes me right now is that she was doing exactly what the Holy Spirit was saying in Acts. She was being for me She was showing me that inner calmness on the seas of a storm. And she was providing me an example of how to know. And then this past week, I listened to Regina in a teaching from 500 Days. And we have a program every other week, Tuesday evenings at 5. We're going through the 500 days. And she said that, these are my interpretations of her words, not a quote. Joy is to know that all is well, all of the time. The sense that all is well, not through a thinking, but through a knowing. This sense of knowing, or the sense that all is well, is a knowing. Wow. NTI Revelations in chapter 16 says, trust within the stillness. Your true peace is known here. Trust within the stillness until the images of the mind have been transformed. So I leave you with the final message to think about as we listen to the last, well, not the last one, but a song. It is through the stillness that we know. We read to understand, we contemplate and to believe, but it is through the stillness that we know. So Kelly, if you would play my next song. So on my order of the service handout, next we have an open sharing. If anybody would like to share.
I'll share a little bit. You talked about understanding, believing, and knowing. It's first of all, it's interesting that NTI is called a course in understanding and acceptance. The acceptance, I think, is equal to the believing that you talked about, right? We could call it believing, we could call it faith, we could call it taking it as true. So I've contemplated that, a lot in my life, and at least since writing NTI. And one thing that I realized, and of course, this is in NTI Philippians and also in NTI Colossians, when it talks about watching the body to see where you actually place your faith, because the mind is so good at lying to us, right? And it says, I believe in whatever, but then when the rubber hits the road, we act in a different way. And our actions are showing us what we really believe, right? Or what we really accept as true. So that's one thing I've always appreciated about NTI, just the title. Which really is what you were talking about, just the title. First we have to understand it, right? But then we have to accept it or believe it or put faith in it. That means live it. We have to move just from the intellectual to involving the entire body experience, the entire daily experience in the practice of our faith or in the practice of our belief. And then, as you pointed out, then comes the knowing, and the knowing really comes, it gets deep into our soul. Gets deep into our soul when we're in contemplation. There's something that touches us when we're in contemplation or meditation, when we get really, really still, where we see the truth of what we don't see when we're involved in the mind. But then, my experience has been that goes right back to that middle step, which was the believing, or the accepting or the faith, because if we aren't walking it, if we aren't speaking it, if we aren't acting from it, it's not completely in our fiber yet. And so we have to continue with the understanding, continue with the stillness, continue with the practice, And you mentioned Saint Ignatius, I think. I don't know much about Saint Ignatius, but what I do know is that he really focused on retreat, right? He thought that retreat from the world was very important. And the reason that you retreat is in order to go deeper into this understanding and this knowing. But the retreats are always temporary, because then you have to go back into the world of the living, right? If you hide in retreat, you never know how deeply you're accepting, how deeply you're believing, how deeply you have faith, whichever word you want to know. So it's like a constant in and out, in and out. And so we have our daily retreat, which is what I call our morning time. And then we have more extended retreats. We might go away to Levita or someplace else for an extended retreat, but we always got to bring it back to the living, so thank you very much for touching on those three, because they're all an important part of the process, understanding. And then, like you said, believing, but the term I've always used is accepting it as true. And then the knowing. And we can tell whether we really know by, as Philippians and Colossians says, by watching the body. How much am I living it? So thank you very much, Joanne.
I love the way you brought in watching the body, because I see also that, I can watch the body and see how I believe, but, and when you see, like I referred to my sister-in-law, I watched her body and I could see her knowing, and it did sort of come around, sure, I'm sure, we all have these beliefs, but her knowing showed through her body. Thank you for that connection. Anybody else? Well, Kelly, if you're, Rhoda, I see you have your hand up.
Do, and I love that you brought what you said about your sister-in-law back up, because I can truly feel the invitation, which is, what I've noticed is that the mind keeps wanting to say that, oh, when awakening happens, you're not gonna feel such and such anymore, and that's never gonna happen again, and you're just gonna be calm and peaceful and nothing's ever gonna rattle you. Yeah, and it is funny because it is, the relative experience at this point is at least that it all keeps coming up. It all keeps happening. And at least where I am at this point, sometimes there's a clarity and a sense of knowing that, like you described, you see in your sister-in-law. And sometimes there is full-on attention there. Either way, it's just really helpful to hear it described again, because it reminds me what I truly want, and that is to be with it, not to deny it, whatever it is that is happening here right now, and to just continue to use my magic wand of willingness, that is my late thing, to be with it and trust that all of it can be accepted, and that true knowing will settle as the ongoing experience. And to really just stop expecting that life is going to just not be what life is. So
All is well. All is well. Thank you, Rhoda.
Yes, there is something very interesting with this silence. It's coming more and more how necessary the silence is. And I am on Gentle Healing 3, and we are reading the 7 Steps to Awakening. And number 532, it says, that the ego life dissolves and dies in silence. And that was today's homework.
Oh, perfect. Thank
Yeah, you're welcome.
you. Yeah. I just want to thank you all for, participating. I loved it. The fear sort of melted away, and I'm really glad that I got assigned, Jacqueline assigned me to do this day. Thank you all.
Been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.